following is intended only for mature audiences.
Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
Timmy.
So I'm handing the keys over to you for this one because we were having a conversation off mic that just blossomed into being too good to not fucking record because there's so much dipshittery afoot in it.
That'd be Pubert thinking of moving to Florida.
Let me give the preface and then you can have the rest here. Your son, who is, I won't say full-blown special needs, but he's on the spectrum.
He's high functioning, yeah.
His mother, Leadhead, your first wife, the
Yep.
one that you allege tried to kill you in a house fire or poison you or a number of other things.
Okay.
So she wants to move to Florida.
Flerda.
Yes.
And your son, who's how old right now?
He's 17.
Says when he turns 18, he thinks he's going to move down to Florida.
Flerda.
To live with her, yes.
A woman that he really has not spent most of his natural life with since he was how old?
He was 5, almost 6 when we got divorced.
Okay, so 12 years of not really having her in his life more than the occasional trips to her new husband's house.
Every other weekend, yeah. And Wednesday nights to go out to dinner for an hour and a half tops.
Yeah. So I'm just going to add that he works at Dairy Queen here because that's what he's got going on. And that outside of school, he doesn't really have much for friends, does he?
No, not really. He's always been more of a loner because of his autism, you know. I mean, the teachers all told me that students seem to like him, and they always include him in projects and stuff like that, and they're enthusiastic with him, but he's not a people person.
So I just want to throw that out, that you could say, technically, he doesn't have a lot to stay here for either, but you have the floor.
Well, when he first brought it up to me that he was thinking of moving down there, I was like, well, why would you move to Florida? I mean, I know your mother is going to. And he's like, well, it's cheaper to live down there. Which sounds exactly like what she told me when she first told me they were going to pack up and move to Florida sometime in the next few months.
Which I will say, we talked about this upstairs when you and my wife and I were having a powwow about my own custody bullshit. Years ago, your ex decided, well, we might move to Texas and I want to take one of the boys with.
Yes.
But it wasn't Pubert.
It wasn't Pubert.
It was Bubba.
It was Bubba. And that was... We've been divorced for almost a year at that point, and her then boyfriend, who's now her husband, they were having a rough spot, and she called me up and said, well, when you come get the boys today, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, whatever.
That's how all good conversations start.
Yeah.
When you come to pick up the kids, we need to have a serious conversation.
Yeah, and in that conversation, she told me that things aren't going too well, we might break up, and if I do, I'm going to move in with my father, her biological father, whom she only met the summer before. So I think she'd known him for 6 or 7 months at this point.
Solid plan.
Yeah. So then I was just like, okay, well, what does that have to do with me? She's like, well, I wanted to take one of the boys with. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, I want to take Bubba.
What?
I was like, no. Why would you split the boys up? And even then, why would you pick a favorite?
Yeah, because that's ultimately what she is doing, is saying, I'm going to take your brother, but you can't come. And there's no way that he doesn't, even with a slightly diminished mental capacity, think, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think even if he doesn't express it out loud, I think deep down inside, he would realize exactly what he said. What the fuck? Where's my brother? Why did she take him and not me? Even if it didn't happen until he was like 10 years later, you know, he's 14, 15, he's just like, what the hell? You know, and it's just like Bubba, for up until probably 3 years ago, thought his mother and I were still married. It never occurred to him, even though he attended his mother's wedding, he was in my wedding when I married Mrs. Number One Fan, that we were divorced. And that all came out when we were doing some heavy therapy for him. So
I just find it interesting that she was so okay with splitting them up.
Exactly. And again, she has changed her life plans I think more than I can count on my two hands. When we were divorcing, she said she wanted to be a chef. She was watching Ratatouille and decided, I want to be a chef. And I wouldn't support her in that. I said, I'm not paying for you to go to college again. She went to Le Cordon Bleu. She barely graduated. And then she worked in a restaurant in downtown she helped prep the food. That was pretty much it.
So she was a sous chef chopping vegetables and shit. Probably.
Yeah. I mean, but she was like low man on the totem pole. So
I'm golf clapping.
Yeah. So then her and her boyfriend / husband, whatever, they started a cigar shop. Well, I don't know if it went under or if they got tired of it. It sounded like they were just going out of business because she was trying to sell everything in the building. And she even sold me one of the nice flat screen TVs they had in there.
You don't normally do that if you're just bored of doing the job. You would probably hold on to that shit and try to sell it off, but not fire sale it before you close down.
She went from, okay, well, I'm going to be a chef, I'm going to be a business owner, to, I'm going to board horses. It's a lifelong dream she's had. It was a dream that, honestly, we both had. I was like, I like the idea of having a bunch of land and having a horse, But I didn't want to work it. I just wanted to ride a horse once in a while. She could do all the work.
Perfect.
So she's doing that, but that's not bringing in the money she needs. So now she was working at a car dealership. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what she was doing, but it was a high-end car dealership.
Blowing someone.
Probably. I mean,
I'm secretary, but knowing her, blowing someone. Not anybody respectable, just a guy that's like, hey, here's a piece of ass. I'm going to get some of this. He's fucking blowing somebody.
Will you fix my car?
Probably.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what a weird time for you to stop sucking and ask me a question.
Finish it up.
Way to kill the mood. I guess. Finish.
So now she's back in the cigar industry or tobacco industry as a consultant or some shit like that while doing her horse thing still.
What the fuck is she consulting on? People like cigarettes. Cigarettes are addictive. They fucking sell themselves. You either want to do it or you don't want to do it. And if you try it, you either say, this is not for me, or, oh boy, give me more.
I have no idea. I mean, she just told me it's something to do with that, and this has been a few years now.
The only way she could have an easier job is if she was a heroin consultant. And she said, hey, you want to try heroin? And the people are like, I guess. And then they shoot up and they're like, oh, well, that wasn't good, and I don't want to do that again, but my body's craving it, so fuck, give me another hit.
Yeah, I have no idea what exactly she does in that regards. And then it was, I want to move to Texas, and now it's, I want to move to Florida. And it was originally, I'm going to stay here till Bubba and Pubert graduate, and then I'll move out of here and go somewhere warm and all that. And now it's getting expensive up here and where we're living because they're developing all around us and the property taxes are going up. So we're going to move now. And I'm pretty sure she's been talking to Bubba about going down there when he graduates, but he hasn't said anything about it other than visiting her during the school year a few times.
Yeah, how is that going to shake out?
They can go visit her when they don't have school, and she's got to pay for plane tickets because I ain't going to be able to afford it.
Well, right.
I mean, when Pubert turns 18, there goes half my child support. So it's like I'm struggling to get stuff paid off now so that when that happens, it won't hurt so bad. Yeah,
then you won't have all that money for all those first world problem type vehicles you ride on weekends in the woods.
I have those first world problems because I overspent.
Yeah.
But, hey, my kids always had what they needed. Food, shelter, clothing.
ATVs.
Everything.
Well, this is where I'm going to take the ball back now.
All right.
And I'm going to eviscerate how fucking stupid her idea is. If you were going to move to any state in the country, what would be at the top of your not gonna fucking do it list?
Where I wouldn't want to move?
Yes.
Honestly, Florida or California. It's a cross.
Because?
The climates of those states. It's really hot. I don't think Florida's crime ridden, but I know California is. It is?
I'm
okay.
surprised
I haven't seen
you even
statistics
had to
on it.
ask me that.
I haven't seen statistics on it. I hear a lot about California having some real problems over there with drugs and homelessness and everything.
Well, homelessness, earthquakes, liberals, those are like three of your mortal enemies right there. And then you've got
this state's pretty liberal, and I'm not leaving here.
Alligators, and people that don't learn English when they move here, so you don't know what they're saying about you behind your back while they're preparing your food at a restaurant, would be three problems with Florida.
True.
If I was going to not move somewhere, Florida would be my number one because of the fucking humidity alone.
Yeah, I've never been. I only went down there one time, and it was winter, so it wasn't humid.
Oh, in the summer, it's fucking gross.
That's from what I understand, yeah.
Plus hurricanes.
Yeah, what the fuck? And if you've looked at it, like I've been watching a lot of Burn Notice, which is a show that takes place in Miami. Mm-hmm. It's very, very flat. So that water, when it comes in, as you've seen in videos, it just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not like Louisiana, or is that Louisiana?
Louisiana's very
where they
low.
have levees, like to help stop it. There's nothing like that in Florida.
Well, I think you would probably want to mention that Katrina didn't stop a lot of things, and there were dead bodies floating out of above-ground crypts. Shit, it was like a corpse soup around parts of that fucking town.
Yeah, God, that's gross.
So now let's just refer to this lovely graphic that
How would you feel if you're like wading through the water and a coffin pops up next to you? Would you feel like you're tainted now because you were in water with a decomposing body? I mean, I suppose you could argue with lakes, but...
No. If that happened to me, I'd be like, oh, well, this is another reason why I'm for mandatory cremation. Because then you wouldn't have these fucking problems.
Yeah, we'd have more room for golf courses.
Yeah, we don't need those either.
I love golf.
It's a fucking waste of goddamn time and space.
You were pretty good at one point in time.
I was so good that I almost took a man's nipple off of the practice swing, and that man was my father, and that sport is one that I don't play anymore. That's the reason.
I think if we went golfing, you'd have a fucking blast.
No, I wouldn't. I fucking hate that stupid sport. It's lame as shit. Florida, on the other hand, I could talk about Florida all day, only in the negatives.
But you spent a lot of time down there, didn't you? Didn't you guys have a timeshare down there?
A timeshare, yes. So we've been for a number of vacations, which is why I know that it's shitty.
First world problems.
Well, that wasn't my fucking timeshare. I never would have bought a timeshare because it's a fucking money trap. My parents are suckers for doing that shit.
But look at all the memories they got. You shitting in a bucket, and
I'm sure they're real happy about that one.
It's a memory.
It's my memory. It's their shame to hide and hope that I don't bring up at dinner parties or retirement get-togethers.
Who the is this guy?
So here's a graphic of the Megazord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. The Megazord is what you got when all of their different animal Zords or Dinozords got together, right? It made this fighting robot that they were inside of it, and they'd fight giant monsters.
Yeah.
That was the concept. So, this graphic, and it shows the 5 Rangers, and there's a word underneath each of them. Here's the words. Hurricanes. Meth. Insanity. Alligators. Old people. And the Megazord is Florida.
Ta-da!
I will say that I have nothing against people that come from other countries to work here. But so many of them congregate in areas down in Florida. There's a lot of really shitty parts of Orlando. Too far from Disney is not much of a Magic Kingdom.
No, it's not. Because like when I went down there with Leadhead back in the day, we stayed probably 30 minutes from there. And it just seemed really kind of shitty all the way around it, in my opinion.
Yeah. So these people, they come here with no work experience. They come here and they get like a work visa to start out. What do they end up doing? Custodial work, restaurant work, caretaking. Believe it or not, you could get a job caring for people with disabilities or the elderly and working the facilities in which they reside with little to no work experience because they pay like shit, so anybody will take those jobs. So anybody is taking care of your cousin that's got fucking Down syndrome living in a group home, or your grandma that lives in a fucking high-rise of old folk.
Yeah.
The most expertise is not required. The other things in there, old people. There's a lot of old people. Old people don't drive so good. So don't imagine that you're ever going to have a car that's dent-free or of a high resale value after all the blue hairs are banging into it and shit trying to park next to you at Publix or Walmart down there.
That's when you park as far away from the building as you possibly
That's
can.
when you fucking walk or you just take a wagon to the goddamn store. Here's the next one. Alligators. Which, you know, alligators are dangerous, and oddly enough, there's been kids that have been killed by alligators inside of Disney resorts. I've been to Disney parks. I've been to various parts of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I have walked in Fort Myers at night on sidewalks next to drainage ditches, which is very ill-advised. And I have never seen a gator. I know they're there. If you go to the Everglades section, they're all over the place.
Well, that was going to be a question.
Alligators.
That's a question I had. Like, I mean, I was in Kissimmee, and we went out to Cocoa Beach, and we went back. Like, I was in two very small areas of the state. How widespread are alligators there? I mean, is it like just in the Everglades area, or is it like the whole state's crawling with them? Because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up to Pubert is, you know, alligators, but I didn't want it to make it seem like there's an alligator hiding underneath every garbage can.
American alligators inhabit most of the southeastern United States, primarily Louisiana, Florida, and Georgia. The largest population of gators live in Gainesville, Florida. They live in freshwater rivers, lakes, swamps, and marshes.
So they're pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, but there's a map that talks about the American alligator, and there's a color concentration on the graphic, and the darkest green portion is where they're the most prevalent, and holy shit, there it is. Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, parts of them.
Yeah, but I have to say, that doesn't mean there's an alligator every 200 feet.
But you know what's all over Florida? Fucking mosquitoes. And what do those mosquitoes carry? All kinds of bloodborne diseases that don't make it up to here. Because they're tropical mosquitoes.
Yay.
And they could fucking breed and survive year long. So Zika, nobody's getting a fucking Zika virus in Minnesota unless they're on vacation in Florida. And if they're on vacation in Florida, they're probably by the beach. So you can watch out for all those drunken college co-eds looking to start fights and fuck anything with a pulse.
Hi.
Which under normal circumstances might be nice. But in your son's case, if he was on the beach and he met some girl, odds are it's just a prank and they're going to straight up dump pig blood on him at a luau or some shit. Yeah, it's not going to end well.
It's going to turn into Carrie?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I was down there in Florida again. It was January. I don't remember there being mosquitoes at that time.
There's fucking mosquitoes, dude.
I'm sure there was, but I don't recall it.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. I went to Florida in August to have my goddamn hernia surgery back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, I went for a jog, and by the end, I could have wrung my skin out like a washcloth. I was sweating in sheets.
Ew.
I went jogging without a shirt, and oh my Christ, it's like my body was somehow thinking, we need to expel as much fluid as possible right now.
See, and right now, the only reason I even want to go to Florida to visit would be to go to Universal Studios and see Harry Potter World.
Yeah, or have sex with Cuban women.
I've never tried that, but I would love to try that.
I'm just going to say that I bet you it's awesome, and Latino women are known for being spicy in the sack. Maybe
I could talk this number one fan into joining.
I don't know if you want to do that, because she's probably going to get outperformed. These Latina broads,
happens.
They are bringing their A game, and nobody's wife wants to be like, why doesn't he smile like that when I do shit like that to him?
Gotcha, bitch!
Drugs. Fucking drugs. So many drugs. How many stories about people high on meth or bath salts? Remember the guy that got on bath salts and ate a man's face? Florida.
Is that in Florida?
Yes.
Flerda.
It's just fucking so many drugs are coming in from the coast. It's a party state. So there's always something. Now, I don't think a lot of college kids do meth and heroin, but you never know. They abuse opioid prescription medications to get high and other prescriptions. So, I mean, there's drugs abound. So if your son's going to meet some friends and get hooked on something, it's probably more likely to happen there than in Minnesota.
I don't foresee him being one to try that stuff. He just, like, at this point, he hasn't even asked if he could try smoking a cigarette.
Good.
So pretty sure he's going to be drug-free.
And then hurricanes.
That'd be probably my biggest thing right there.
Just the fucking weather. Holy shit, here's something you might not have noticed when you were in Florida. Watch the weather reports for the next day when you're in Florida. Or just Google a weather report from one of the Florida stations. Especially the closer you get to Miami. You will notice that they will include lightning warnings. The same way that we have forest fire threat levels.
Lightning levels?
Lightning. Fucking lightning all the fucking time. I was just watching TV after my surgery for a day in the hotel there in Fort Myers, and I was like, boy, they sure are fucking concerned about lightning. And I mentioned it to the guy that was shuttling us to the clinic so I could have my post-op follow-up. He's like, oh yeah, all the time lightning strikes down here. It's crazy. It's always in the news because you want to know how likely it is that there's going to be a lightning storm or there's going to be weather like that because people like to golf around here and it's just all the time, just lightning strikes.
Get the fuck off the course. You're holding us to a lightning rod.
I can deal with snow. Snow's not going to kill me on just
very
touch alone.
Easily.
But lightning can fucking kill me. And statistically speaking, they say your odds of getting struck by lightning are, terrible. In fact, they're so terrible that I'm going to Google.
It's like 1 in 100 some odd thousand.
Odds of being struck by lightning. One of the leading causes of weather-related fatalities, but the odds of being struck in a given year are only 1 in 500,000. Do you know what happened to both of my parents?
Yeah, I remember the story.
They've both been struck by lightning. And my dad, technically, has been struck twice because my mom got struck and then it shot her into him and he got some of the voltage that way.
Was this while they were in Florida?
No.
No?
No.
It was up here?
Yes.
Wow. Where?
Monticello? For the one that got her into him. Anyways, they've both been struck by lightning. They've both been hit by cars or in car accidents.
And you wonder why your mom is the way she is.
Because she's stupid and crazy and fat.
Because she's been struck by lightning.
That doesn't... That
Got a few short circuits now.
Nah, that's not it. That's... If anything, that should have fucking realigned some of those wires. So your odds of getting struck by lightning are way greater in Florida. So picture him just like fucking listening to music on his headphones while he walks with his phone in his pocket, admiring the pretty girls on the beaches, and then just zap! That shit could happen.
Boom,
and then,
lights out.
And then as his corpse is cooking on the pavement, trying to get your heart out of AFib, a gator could walk by and snatch up his body and drag him away.
Yep.
And then someone will kill that gator and eat the meat while they're smoking meth. On their break, working at the nursing home. Also mosquitoes.
See, I went to the alligator thing too, but you took it a step further and it was beautiful.
You never know. He could be like, oh, I've never seen a hurricane before. I'm going to go see the big waves down on the waterfront.
At least the
And
last
then
thing
he
he
drowns.
saw was a girl in a bikini. I'd like that to be the last thing I see when I die.
Yeah, but it could be a fat girl in a bikini who has no business wearing one of those. I don't care what
Florida,
you say
the
about body positivity. If you have so many folds that you can't get all the stink out from in between your different skin flaps, you have no business wearing a two-piece swimsuit.
I would say down in Florida, that'd be the spot where you could probably see a fat girl in a bikini.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's a place where you could also impregnate a number of them because they're real easy.
Speaking from experience.
Flerda girls.
Flerda.
I could go down to Florida right now and double my amount of children in a week. I could fucking probably...
You are pretty fucking potent, all the evidence
I could pull a
suggests.
dozen broads in a week. I'm very confident. I don't have to have high standards. I'll just find ones that don't get a lot of dick thrown at them, and I'll fucking give them the banging of a lifetime. And next thing you know, there's a little mini me walking around down there getting piss-poor education from their public school system, and each one of them has a very high likelihood of being born addicted to meth, killed by somebody who is on meth, struck by lightning, eaten by alligators, run over by an old person, or contracting the Zika virus, or possibly drowning in a hurricane. It could happen to anyone. But the last bit here is that it's cheaper to live because there's more tourist money, but that means the hourly wages are shittier. So if California is 30% higher of a cost of living than Minnesota, then Florida's probably a 30% or 20% less, but the wages are equally in sync with that.
Yeah, it's the inflation of the area you're living in. That way you can afford to live there. That's the only way it happens. So we're paying you more, so we can tax you more. And then it just keeps going up and up and up and up.
So they have a 6% general sales tax rate. It's only 4% on amusement machines and 5.5% on the lease or license of a commercial real estate property. 6.95% on electricity. But the roads, they get driven on year-round. You can work on them year-round. The projects there take 1/4 of the time, if not 1/5 of the time here.
Yeah,
but
they
there's
don't
toll
pause.
roads and shit.
Toll roads suck. Oh my god.
I don't even want to visit Florida. There's nothing down there. It's just gross.
I just want to go to Harry Potter World. Sorry, I'm a Potter nerd.
You fucking go to California then.
No, I'd rather go to fucking Florida than California.
Why?
Liberals.
You think they're going to
Earthquakes.
smell you getting off the fucking plane?
Earthquakes.
Quick, we got one of them conservative types
And
here.
there's a lot of people there that don't speak English.
Hit the earthquake alarm and maybe have a couple of bums come take a shit on the sidewalk around his feet so he's got nowhere to run.
Exactly.
Just
I'd be
fucking
cornered.
sliding on shit. Falling onto the knife of some Latino gangbangers just hanging out while he's drinking a 40 on the curb with a fucking butterfly knife out for no good reason. Then you just take it right to the eyeball.
Exactly.
Fuck both of those states, but fuck Florida for looking like a deflated old man's penis. So I think that you should broach the topic again with your son and explain all of these reasons. Or you could just play him this episode and see how he responds.
I could play parts of it for him.
Now you might as well play the whole fucking thing.
I'll let him know what I really think of his mother after I don't have to collect child support from her. So I gotta wait till Bubba turns 18. Then I don't have to care what gets back to her because I don't have to deal with her anymore.
Yeah, but what fun is that?
Oh, I can't wait for the day when I don't really have to deal with her.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.